Okay. All right. So this is my dog, Yoshi. If you can all see him. So Yoshi is 14 to 17 years old. We've had him for the last 7 years when we adopted him, and he had terrible vision when we adopted him, and he has become blind. So he's got glaucoma, he's got, in both eyes, and he's on drops and all that. Anyway, a dog who's got terrible vision and blind relies on their hearing. And Yoshi, in the past 2 months, had basically gone from normal hearing, which he relied on, to having maybe 10 to 20% of his hearing left. And it was really hard for him, really hard for us. We couldn't guide him by tapping our foot on the floor anymore to get from, part of the house to the other part of the house, and calling him for dinner. He couldn't hear us. He wouldn't come out of the bedroom because he couldn't hear us. Anyway, he was on the patches, specifically X39 and carnosine, for 2 weeks, and his hearing has returned. So again, game changer for his behaviors and actions, because now we can hear. We've gone back to tapping in the house and guiding him, and he's gone from being very insecure to secure again. He's always been a very easygoing dog, so we're getting our regular Yoshi back. I have a second animal testimonial that occurred this morning that was totally unexpected. So my husband and I have a 10-year-old cat. Her name is Zoey. She has been with us for the last 5 years when we adopted her. And Zoey she's kind of a little pudgy little girl. She's a little obese, but we adopted her that way. And she's always, since we've owned her, had a little bit of trouble jumping up on things. She can do the standard, from the floor to the couch. But over the last, I'd say, year and a half, she's struggled to jump from the floor to our bed. Okay, so when she would lately, well, up until, I'd say, the last 2 weeks, she was having trouble. She would try to jump on the bed from the floor. And if you can just picture it in your mind, the little cartoon image of she'd grab to the side of the bed and her little nails would go down. She'd find herself back on the floor. So I would tell her, go around, use the dog stairs that we have on the edge of the bed. So sometimes she would do that, and other times she would just kind of give up. Well, anyway, I did notice in the past couple of weeks, she's been jumping on the bed quite well, quite strongly. But I didn't think, as Danielle, that there was anything more to it. I just kind of was like, oh, wow, she's suddenly jumping the bed. I didn't even think about the patching that we'd been doing for her. Well, this morning I thought about the patching because I was done feeding all the cats their wet food, their raw food. And so I happened to go into our guest bathroom, where up on the countertop of the sink, I feed one particular cat, not Zoey, it's one of my other cats, who gets specialty food that if Zoey gets into that food, she'll vomit and get sick. So long story short, I have the other cat Soleil's food up there purposely, because I know Zoey cannot jump on top of that counter and eat it and then vomit afterwards. So I've done that for the past 4 years. This morning, I go in to take the empty plate, knowing that the cat was done, and there is Zoey licking her lips, having finished that plate, standing on that counter. I called through the house and I said, Brandon, that's my husband's name, Brandon, come see this. So he comes thinking there's something wrong. And I said, look at this. And he sees Zoey on the counter and his jaw dropped. Okay, you guys have to understand, we adopted her at age 5. Age 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, up until this morning, she has never been capable, ability-wise, to actually jump onto the sink counter. I even got a measuring tape afterwards, because I was like, and that counter from the floor, it's 2 feet and 10 inches, so almost 3 feet. And oh my God, I'm just like amazed. So that just happened this morning, and I've had her on. I had her on a week of X39, and then I'd been doing carnosine for, I would say, the first half of the second week period, probably the half of the whole second week period. And then I added in the aeon for her as well every other day. And so for her, it took just a little over 22 days for her to reach this point. So 3 weeks. So anyway, and listening to you, Dr. KAYLA, today about the why we're doing this. For me, I know my why, because my animals deserve to feel good in their bodies. Every human deserves to feel good in their bodies. And I see the results in my own eyes. And you guys all have to understand, I live in a home with senior animals. Our animals are of that age at this point. So I am also seeing other little things happening with my other animals. But those are the two big ones right now. So I am humbled and grateful that miracles, what I define as a miracle, is possible. I used to live, or I used to be a veterinary technician and went to college for that and all that. And animals do not recover their hearing in my past experiences of being a vet tech. And yet I've seen it. So anyway, that's it.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I want to add too, Danielle is very special. She didn't say this about herself because she's very humble, but she's very gifted and she has amazing senior animals that she cares for and adopts and loves. She's also an animal communicator. So she has lots of love for the animal population and they take up lots of places in her home and in her heart. So for her, it is about her animals, about extending their life and their quality and their well-being of who they are. And of course, her and her husband are patching as well. But of course, for her, it is about the animals. And so seeing that just goes even more. And I always say children and animals always see the changes